Oh boy, today's video is gonna feel like a very small thing to get upset about. Upset, is that the word I want to use? This is something small that I'm noticing across the entire internet, and I feel like it's weird. I feel like it's showing me how bizarre human beings really can be, and this, of course, is in relation to the next iPhone design, iPhone and iPhone Pro, whatever the heck they're gonna end up calling it, which is just about a week away now. Can you believe it? That's coming up quick. But yeah, today we're talking about the small case leak we got that perhaps the Apple logo is moving slightly lower on the iPhone design this year, and somehow that annoyed people. That made them lose their minds. Let's begin. The hilarious thing about this rumor and the way people have reacted to it is it's the first design change that literally has like no functional difference to previous generation iPhones. It's literally the difference of my iPhone always looked this way, now it doesn't look this way, so it is bad. And that is somehow hilarious to me. I don't know why, but I could understand people's frustration with the notch. I'm not saying the notch is bad. I mean, I think everyone who bought an iPhone 10 or newer figured out that, hey, you know what? It doesn't really feel like that big of an intrusion because we don't look at that part of the phone too much. And it has to be there for the camera sensors and Face ID. But that is something very noticeable that you can see on the front of the device that by definition intrudes on certain types of content. Whether you're playing a video game or watching a movie, it's probably way more intrusive anytime you use it in landscape mode. I feel like most people can agree with that. But when you're using it in portrait mode or you're on dark mode in the first place and you're scrolling through a website or something, the notch just kind of disappears. Your mind doesn't even see it anymore. Regardless though, I can understand people's frustration because it's a noticeable change from the previous generation iPhones, which were always standard rectangles. I could even understand people's frustration with the camera bump in the past. No, I'm not talking about the fact that the triple camera on the next iPhone is going to be in an equilateral triangle type orientation. I'm sure there's reasons for that related to portrait mode videography or augmented reality. There was probably some computational photography reasons to arrange them in that way. No, I'm talking about the fact that the 10R and the 10S had very, very thick camera bumps on the back. Not even gradual bumps like on the 8 and 8 Plus or the 7, but no, like very, very sharp 90-degree angle camera bumps that stick out quite noticeably from the back of the phone. That makes it harder to lay flat on a table, and it's just a sharper, less smooth design that looks, you know, very much like a protrusion on the back because it is, and it feels like every single year the camera bumps just get a little bit worse. But this, of all things for people to get upset about, comes from a case manufacturer, which is not making an official iPhone case yet. All we know at this point in the game is that most case manufacturers probably have the schematics, you know, the dimensions of the next generation iPhones, but do they know what they look like? Do they know what colors they're in? Probably not. They likely know very, very little about next generation iPhones, even a week before the new ones are coming out. The one thing that they may potentially know about though, and this is still possibly an incorrect rumor, it might not even be official, but if they end up being right, there's a chance that case manufacturers know where the Apple logo is being placed on the back, because as you guys probably seen in the past, some case manufacturers like to leave a little hole there so you can still see that Apple logo on the back of the iPhone. Well, this one estimated that the next gen iPhone's Apple logo would be more centered on the back, which kind of goes along with previous generation rumors that the text iPhone on the back would be removed, maybe for the sake of simplicity or for the sake of just minimalism, keeping things as simple and clean as possible. And because the cameras on the back are taking up a lot more space, even though that camera bump on the back is slimming down, it is actually thinner than before, which I'm happy about. For the sake of busyness, they decided to lower the Apple logo to be a tad more centered. Everybody loses their minds as soon as you move that Apple logo on the back. Like, I never saw people get upset when Huawei phones started to put the text like vertically on their phones, like off to the side. No one complained about that, even though their phones didn't always look like that in the past. Everyone's just like, oh, I guess they wanted to change up the design a little bit. Apple decides to move the logo a little bit, and everyone just freaks out because all their iPhones have had it that way in the past, right? But you guys realize they're working on new iPhones, okay? They're allowed to change designs if they're making new iPhones. Realize how stupid that sounds if you go back through history and say, well, no, the iPhone screen has always been this aspect ratio. They would never change it. They'll never move to 16:9. But no, they did change it to 16:9 because they knew that was a more common video standard. And with the iPhone 5, they made the screen taller. And then when the iPhone 10 leaks were coming around, it was like, no, they would never change the aspect ratio ratio. iPhones have always had a 16:9 aspect ratio. Well, turns out with the times, an Apple can decide to go in any direction that they seem fit. And these are much bigger changes I'm describing as my examples. The idea of the logo on the back being centered somehow ticks everyone off just because my eyes aren't used to seeing that there. That logo cannot be there. It's always been in the same place. Don't change it. Like, why was no one so upset about, like, the ringer switch being changed? I mean, that's been a rumor we've had for a long time, that the new iPhone ringer is no longer going to be kind of a long switch that goes up and down, but now back to the old iPad auto lock switch, which is more of a circle that goes side to side. Like, you could even make a functional argument as to why that is worse. Like, I kind of enjoy the ringer switch on previous generation iPhones because I can change it like this. With the circular one, it may be a little bit harder to get a grip on it and push it up and down compared to the simple just side to side we're used to on previous generation iPhones. This isn't like a huge change or anything, but at least there's somewhat of a functional reason to be upset about it. Putting the logo just a little bit more centered, I have yet to see someone come up with one functional reason that is a bad design choice aside from, it looks ugly. That looks weird. It looks ugly. It's not usually there. It's always got to be at the top. Why isn't it at the top? Guys, sounds so weird. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, MacBooks have their Apple logo centered as well. iPad Pros and all iPads, in fact, have the Apple logo centered on the back. To an extent, the iPod Touch even has the Apple logo more centered. No one complains about that. No one's like, Apple logo needs to be up higher so it's more like the iPhone. No, you're all fine with that, but as soon as Apple tries to bring that to the iPhone line, everyone freaks out. Everyone goes bananas. The one attempt at a functional argument that I saw, which isn't a good one, was someone saying that, well, when you hold the iPhone, your hand will cover up the Apple logo. Okay, we're going to those levels of sheep here. So it's not enough that the weird camera design on the back doesn't just scream iPhone anymore. Now you need to make sure that when you're holding it without a case, because most people are going to use a case anyway and cover up the logo in the first place. No one brings that up. But no, you actually want to make sure when you're holding your iPhone, everyone around you can see that it's an iPhone via Apple logo, which is slightly higher than normal. Really? I mean, is that what you're getting to? If you care that much about people knowing, like, in the general public that you're holding an iPhone, then in the words of Steve Jobs, you're holding it wrong. Even if the logo is centered, I can show you a few ways you can hold this thing and it will still be visible, but that's such a stupid reason to be upset. I walk into this type of argument so many times in my life that people will hate something or think something is ugly without any functional evidence to back it up. It's just the simple fact that they think it's ugly. But that's not a good enough reason for me to agree with you. I need functional and factual evidence to back up your claims as to why it's an inconvenience. I can see that with the notch. I can see that with the camera bump. Heck, I can even see it with the old style antenna bands and accidentally covering them up that caused antenna gate way back in the day. But this is so nitpicky. This is unbelievably over the top critical towards Apple that you will never see towards another company. Have you seen anybody get upset about the Pixel design switching to an all glass back instead of the matte and glossy combo of the past? No, they don't care. No one gets upset about Huawei moving their logo up to the side. No one gets upset about Samsung switching to glass backs from their removable backs in the past. No, that never makes a difference. But Apple moving the logo slightly, which I may go as far to say I can think of a functional argument as to why that's a good idea. On top of all this, let's just remind ourselves it's the back of the phone. Like, who cares? No one looks there. You're spending 99% of your time looking at the front. But I'll just play devil's advocate here for a second. Like many people have said, centering the logo will allow the user to know exactly where to place their AirPods or Apple Watch, if they support that, for bilateral wireless charging, which these next-gen iPhones are rumored to support. It was already kind of spotty back when I tested it with the Galaxy S10 to know exactly where to place your Galaxy Buds to ensure that they're charging. Since Apple is centering the logo on the back, it's going to be easier than ever to know exactly where you're supposed to place the second device or the AirPods of any kind to allow for that wireless charging support. You don't need to wonder where on the iPhone is that coil located. Sure, most of us can eyeball it in, but the Apple logo is just going to make it that much easier if they do decide to center it. Keep in mind, people, this rumor could still be completely bogus and everyone's getting upset over nothing. But if you want to call the next generation iPhone ugly, base it on the camera bump. I could see people saying that, like they don't like the glass matching the color of the back. They don't like the 3 black holes. I mean, that's bizarre. It's out of the ordinary. I can kind of get your argument, but I still stand with my previous video that you're just not used to it. There has never been a new iPhone camera design that everyone said, hey, that looks good. I like that design choice. If you've been following iPhone leaks for years, you know that every single year everyone says the iPhone camera design looks worse. Ew, it's vertical now. Ew, the camera bump is longer. Ew, there's a camera bump. Every single year everyone gets annoyed and then they get used to it within a matter of months. But still, I could understand that frustration with the triple camera more than just the stupid Apple logo moving. Really? That's what you're gonna decide this is ugly on? Ask yourselves, why is it ugly? Apart from tradition, it must always look the same. Just open your eyes just a little bit and be like, you know, maybe it doesn't really matter that much because I won't be looking at it and there's no functional reason that it has to be in the same place it's been in before. But I get it. All the comments on this video are just gonna be, but bruh, it's ugly. But it looks bad. Wow. Great counter arguments. I didn't consider that. All of you have changed my mind just by saying it happens to be ugly. Great counter argument, everyone. Really good reasoning. Anywho, if you want to argue more about this, feel free to hit me up on Twitter or join our Discord. This is your Apple Sheep here. I'll see you guys in the next one.